Red Bull has lost one of their most valuable assets to Aston Martin, but it seems like the Austrian team wasn't ready to let go without causing any trouble before the transfer was officialized. Adrian Newey has spoken on this matter and said that the team has blocked some of the tools that he was working with throughout his gardening leave, which would make his transition to Aston Martin much more difficult given the fact that his work will be seen on 2026's Challenger. With this in mind, has Red Bull slowed down the progress of their rivals with some proper intention? And if so, will it cost Aston Martin more than they could imagine? It's safe to say that one of the greatest transfers in the history of the sport that is not related to the drivers is Newey going to Aston Martin. And after he announced his departure from Red Bull, not many people saw him continuing his legacy and starting a new tenure elsewhere due to his age. Nevertheless, Newey has proven to everyone, including his own manager Eddie Jordan, that he is here to stay and he is ready for another project. However, that project might have taken a turn to the wrong side after Newey's latest statement regarding Red Bull's actions towards him. Due to the Austrian team blocking the Brits' tools through gardening leave, Newey says that he will definitely be behind the curve at Aston Martin. If you add the factor that he would have to work on a car for the upcoming season once he starts his work in Silverstone, which means we won't get to see his impact until 2026, this changes a lot because of the fact that every team is going to be in the dark with these new regulations. Newey appeared on the Autocar podcast and it was put to him that ever since he left the team, there is not an option that the team can put on him in terms of innovating stuff with the car and then implementing it in the future. While Newey agreed with this, he said that the team is blocking some important tools for him and that is what costs him more. And when talking about it, he said, "No, the team can't stop me from innovating, but they have blocked my tools." So obviously Aston wants to do the best job they can in 2025, but my main kind of focus will be at the 2026 regulations and this big change because I start on the 2nd of March. The aero rule comes out on the 1st or 2nd of January, so I will already be kind of 2 months behind the curve. But in truth, of course, it's more than that because not only will I be behind on looking at those regulations compared to when they've come out, but I'll also have trouble with the computer-aided design system as well. You need to be upfront with it in order to understand all the boxes and so forth. They are so prescribed. This would be very interesting to analyse because if you think about it, Newey is not the only asset that Aston Martin brought for their future. They've also signed the services of Andy Cowell from Mercedes and the ex-technical director of Ferrari, Enrico Cardile. On top of that, the Silverstone-based squad will be powered by Honda, the team with which Red Bull has seen themselves being brought back to glory and championships. So to say that a lot will depend on the collaboration from all of these sides is definitely a proper statement. The move for Newey to move out of Red Bull was definitely a bold one, to say the least, but now he needs to gel his genius ideas with all of the other big signings that the team brought, and if he is pulled back by his old team, then it can and certainly will matter in the time to come. Many of you may ask, why didn't Newey remain in the team despite all of the success they've had and work on a new challenge without Honda in order to make sure that this is going to be his final output for the squad that he's worked for almost 2 decades? Well, according to Horner, the agreement was for Newey to see out his contract in 2025 and then just leave Formula One. But if you see the terms that he agreed on with Aston Martin with the equity part, you would understand that Horner's statement doesn't really match Newey's actions. When talking about it, Horner said, "The agreement between us and Newey was that at the end of 2025 he was going to step back from Formula One and really just be a mentor. Otherwise, I was going to lose the other technical guys to some rival teams. The deal he's got with Aston, with equity and so on, is something that quite simply wasn't on the table here. I can understand Adrian wants another run around the block in Formula One, and as a shareholder and partner in a team, I certainly don't blame him for that. As for Aston Martin, the team team will certainly benefit a lot from the strategies and the mastermind ideas that Newey will of course bring to the table, but what is important to state is that it's still unknown which drivers are going to be here to harvest the fruits of Newey's work. Alonso opened up on his future, and although he pushed for this signing to happen, he now stressed that he is likely not going to be around to drive a car fully designed by Newey. And when talking about his future in the sport, the two-time world champion said, "We have quite a few good things coming in the next few months in the team. Step by step, we all have to have that first race win and hopefully fight for championships in the future. I am aware that this takes time, and I don't have that time in a way, but I am relaxed and I am enjoying the journey." Whether it's a coincidence or not, the situation in Red Bull has started to deteriorate once Newey announced his departure, which was around the Miami GP in 2024. Of course, we can't say that one man brings the entire change in the team because it's 2,000 people working in the factories under their command, but Newey has started what seemed to be a domino effect and ended up with two other very important figures leaving the team. Wheatley accepted the role of team principal in Audi, while Courtenay accepted the offer from McLaren. Still, you trace the entire stuff back to Newey and his departure, and you could see that he was not happy with how things developed in the Austrian team after the passing of Dietrich Mateschitz. And even Jos Verstappen warned that after the internal investigation, if Horner remains in charge, then there is definitely going to be a massive exodus from the team. But according to the team principal of Red Bull, the situation from Aston Martin announcing Newey as a huge signing and promoting him in Silverstone in front of the employees was a bit unprofessional, because the F1 guru was still under contract with the Austrian team despite him being on a gardening leave for the current year. Elaborating further, Horner said, "It was obviously a large announcement by Aston, and Adrian has always tended to his own thing, so obviously it was a big moment for that team. They chose to celebrate it perhaps potentially slightly prematurely before he has finished his contract with Red Bull Racing, but obviously it was a big moment for the team." You would normally assume that Red Bull is not going to be happy with the move of Newey, but there were signs that pointed towards this scenario. The Brit has always pointed towards the fact that there are certain flaws on the RB20 that were designed without his permission, and some of them were not fixable until 2021. It turned out that he was right in this regard, and it is a massive question mark as to whether or not the Austrian team can pick up the pieces with all of the departures that happened to them left and right. They've dropped to the third spot in the Constructors' Championship, and had it not been for the first 5-race dominance in 2024, who knows if Verstappen would have had such an advantage in the Drivers' Championship as well. Nevertheless, Red Bull is in a very difficult position now, and it's obvious they need to look at themselves in the mirror and see what can be done for the foreseeable future, because as Jos Verstappen said, his son won't be driving in a car that is incapable of winning races. With all this in mind, what do you think about Red Bull's move to block Newey's tools and purposefully slow down the transition process to Aston Martin? And more importantly, do you think that this will affect the 2026 car more than we could imagine? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're interested in the latest changes for the 2025 season, make sure to check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.